And today we are talking about reclaiming ancestral wisdom for future building. I'm so glad it brings you joy too, Susan. Oh, Lisa said good morning, sunshine. I like that. Sunshine makes me happy. We have a cat that's trying to join us. I don't know. I think it's Rascal. All right. What are our 3 points of the day, right? Because we do 3 points with every micro lesson. So our three today are going to be one, ancestral knowledge offers sustainable solutions, right? I think that that's very real because, again, we're all indigenous to somewhere and we have all faced, yeah, yeah. For those of you new here, Tiffany has called my show now Coffee Cats and Des. And it's because I have 5 cats and I usually have coffee. Good morning, Dawn. Okay, so now that we all know that I am officially the cat lady, um, we were talking about ancestral knowledge and talking about how bringing in those things are important because we're all indigenous to somewhere, right? And we have all suffered oppression at some point in time. All of us have been victimized by Christianization. This is a thousands of years old situation that we're in, right? And we're kind of just like recycling through it. There goes Shady Baby. Good morning, sunshine. Tiffany says all my favorite things. I mean, hardcore same, right? So when you can tap into that intergenerational knowledge, when you can tap into that ancestral wisdom, you're still here, right? You still exist. Even if you are in a white body, this is why I asked the question, who were you before you were white, right? Before supremacy culture, forced assimilation, before you chose assimilation, before all of those things, you were something. You had an indigenous culture, you had land, you had a place to belong to, and ancestral wisdom to carry forth. And I want you guys to touch that, right? Because that's going to help us build liberated futures, right? That's what future building is for. Can I help you with what? No, because I don't need that right now. You want to make a video? Okay. Can we do this maybe after I'm done? But here you go. That should be good enough for you. You're welcome, sweetie. Two, honoring the past while embracing innovation. There's something beautiful in recognizing that people have gifted us, right? This ancestral wisdom, ideas, innovation, and how do we take that and make it something new, something that's going to benefit the future generations? I often say that this work is about 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. You will see some change now, but the work that we're doing now is going to benefit the generations ahead. And that's got to be okay, right? We got to say we're doing the work and that's go okay. Three, wait, where are we at? Three. Reconnecting with cultural practices strengthens community. Firmly believe this, right? What was I watching? Oh, I was watching a movie the other day because I enjoy doing that on the weekends. And since we're off this week for school, it's our spring break, we're just kind of like lounging about, watching movies. We rarely turn on the TV. And I was sitting down and what was the name of the movie? I cannot remember it, but it was on Netflix and it was good. Before I get off, I'll try to turn on my TV and see my Netflix history. It was so good. But they were having an Indian wedding and it went over the course of 30 days. And I was like, it is so beautiful, their tradition, right? Like carrying it over for generations, for generations. And I wanted to share it with you guys because there was that point of that intergenerational joy, right? Like the youth, the elders, the people of the right now were all participating, right? Nobody was aged out of something. Nobody was too young to be doing something. Nobody was like, children need to be seen, not heard, sort of thing. Everyone was participating in this joy, in this ancestral tradition that they've been doing for as long as, I mean, I'm aware. So it was just something that was so beautiful. And I think that that is very key, is to reconnect to those cultural practices because, again, supremacy culture disconnects us from self, from community, and from land. And so when we've forgotten those practices, what happens, and you see this very often with white body people, is there's appropriation, right? We're going to take from here, we're going to take from there, we're going to do this. Oh no, we discovered that. You have discovered nothing. Nada. I don't understand how you've discovered everything and nothing at the same time, but that is something to be unpacked, right? Or what's very interesting is you still have not discovered your own ancestral practices, right? What do Polish people do? What do German people do? What do Irish people do? What is happening where your people were from? What could you bring forward in your current life that your ancestors practice? And how would that shift things for you in the way that you relate to others in community? And how could you invite people into community when you have your own practices? I think that that's something that needs to really be thought about. Let's see. Taylor says, learning, seeing past the harm and cringe of my older relations, joy measured by productivity for indigenous wisdom is a real lesson for me. Yeah. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, thank you. I'm on live. She's being rude about me. Okay, he doesn't know how to do it. I will help. Thank you for asking him. She's being rude about it. Okay. You could be upset about that, but maybe now wasn't the time to do it. Give me the phone. Sorry, guys, because the tiny humans are home. I did say I was going to be in the cottage today. But due to the fact that I got up so late, I did not get a chance to go to the cottage. It doesn't seem to extend past that point. So here you go. Is that good? Okay, there you go. She's making a video. Morgan is going to be the next YouTube star. So now that we have our 3 points, let's get into those talking points, right? And yeah, I agree, Taylor, is that when you're really looking at it, there's a healing point to it, right? Like when you're like, okay, you know what? They've done that, but they've also had their own experiences and why it's happening and all of those sorts of things. When you start humanizing people, no matter who they are, when you humanize them for their experiences and not judge them by the worst parts of them, we get to see the full breadth of humanity, right? Yeah, I mean, our ancestors were harmful to themselves, to others, to you. Why? What experience? I had written an article about like that generational thing, right? Thinking about what people have gone through when you're talking about, and I only went to the silent generation, but when you're talking about the silent generation who raised the boomers, who raised the Gen X, which I am, and then so on and so forth, you could really look at the world's traumas and see what, like we're all children of our era sort of thing. And you could see like with the silent generation, there was not war nowhere, right? There was nowhere that war was not touching the silent generation. There was nowhere that they were not fleeing, looking for safety from some sort of violence from colonization. So when you think about that and they come to new lands and they don't speak the dominant language, um, you know, just loss of life, children, home, practices, I could see why they became so introverted, why they turned inward and was like, we're not going to talk about any of that, right? It's what does it do? What does it matter? But no, we can't go back, right? There's no returning to that. So what? We have a new life now. Shut up and just, nose down to the grindstone and let's make it work. You're talking about people that were suffering abject poverty most, right? Because there is this weird fantasy that seems to happen inside of those hierarchies of whiteness. Most white people are not, from the waspy white culture. And most of them are serfs. Serfs, I said serfs. Most of them are serfs, peasantry, indentured servants, and come from that. And that trauma carries through the generational lines. So I think that it's beautiful that you were able to offer them that level of humanity. And thank you for that. All right, so now let's jump into our points. But before we do that, let me check in on Morgan because I can hear that she sounds like she's struggling. Shady, are you good? You got it figured out? Okay, thank you. Never mind. She got it sorted. Well, I'm gonna grab me a sip of water. All right, so number 1. Ancestral knowledge offers sustainable solutions. Ancestral wisdom rooted in long-standing practices of sustainability, care, and justice can guide the development of new systems. As an example, indigenous land stewardship practices offer valuable insights into ecological sustainability. I recall the first time that I really realized like the difference of native plants and then plants that have just been brought in, but how deeply they root in to the ground because they're from here or what have you, and how that actually helps like lack of flooding and that sort of thing. And I was like, I'm not terribly versed in it, but I was like, that is so brilliant, right? Like there is, God, I was supposed to put a visual in there. Let me remind myself. Alexa, set reminder to put 2 visuals in article from yesterday and article from today at 10 a.m. Damn, I should have said 11.
I'll remind you at 10 a.m.
Laura says, my grandfather said dirt floors in Italy. Yeah, and there's dirt floors in South Georgia right now, right? So like it's not so far removed, right? And when we could actually see that and offer them grace, is I actually ask that we task each other to offer another grace. Very specifically, I ask white women to offer white men the same grace black women have offered you on your learning journey, on your unpacking in community, because when we can extend that grace, we allow humanity to sit and be like witnessed and seen and heard and all of those things. And people tend to become vulnerable then, right? When we spoke maybe about a month ago now about creating safe spaces, brave spaces, you need vulnerability for that, right? But I'm not going to sit here and share with you and you're ripping me apart, telling me how much of an awful human being I am. Like I know I'm awful, right? Would you like to hear what made me awful? I know I've made some poor choices. Or that defensiveness comes in and they can't even turn around and say that, right? Those pillars will work through, right? Like, no, the way I did it was the right way. No, paternalism kicks in, right? Well, what men say, or what have you, all of those things kick in because they haven't been given the space to be safe and brave, to be vulnerable with you. So, as a reflection, I ask, what ancestral knowledge can you draw from to inform your vision of the future? Like, what does that look like? Maybe your ancestral knowledge on gardening. Tiffany yesterday shared that she's a gardener, right? Do you have any ancestral practices in that? On home building, what does that look like? I went viral once on Lives of TikTok. I was so pissed off because we were talking about myself and Isabella. We're talking about more environmental racism, right? Like, why is there so much air conditioning in America? And I'm like, well, that's because they stripped the ancestral knowledge of the indigenous here, right? Like by murdering and being damn near genocidal, you took away that knowledge. So now we're stuck with houses that don't naturally cool, where if we would have kept that knowledge, they would, right? Those sorts of things. Two, honoring the past while embracing innovation. Reclaiming ancestral wisdom doesn't mean rejecting modern advancements. It means integrating the past with innovative solutions. As an example, community gardens that incorporate traditional agricultural practices while using modern technology foster sustainable growth. I find this to be so necessary. When I had a community on Mighty Networks, there was someone, I'm terrible with names, but there was a person in that group that this was solely their thing, right? That they dealt with like indigenous plants and agriculture and how to bring that stuff back to this land and this area and environmental racism. And I was fascinated by this because I wasn't aware. Like, I did not know these things. Again, we're not going to berate people for not knowing what they don't know. I did not know that they sterilize trees, right? Like, because why would I know that? I've just always grown up with trees not bearing fruit unless it was intentional, right? Like you went to an apple orchard or you went to somebody's property and they had it. So learning those things from her was like, wow, that's amazing. Now I know. Now I semi advocate in some sort of way, or at least bring awareness to those sorts of things. But when you're talking about that, like in regard to the sterilized plants, I shared the other day about gorilla grafters. So they took this indigenous knowledge, right, of having fruit bearing trees, and they graft fruit bearing trees to non fruit bearing ones until they turn back to fruit bearing ones. And they do this in public property in areas. And I think I love that. I love malicious non-compliance, right? Like I love, well, malicious compliance in some sort of way because it's not necessarily illegal, but you know that that's not what they actually want. So I thought that that was brilliant, right? And so when you kind of take that, that is bringing that ancient or ancestral knowledge and bringing it forward in these innovative new ways, right? Again, we have lawns. Why? Turn them into food spaces. Tiffany says, I didn't know that about sterilizing trees until you said it the other day. Correct. That's what I'm saying is that this The colonization is so deep and so intertwined. It's why anti-racism just wasn't enough for me. I'm like, that is just but one branch of a very deeply rooted tree. And we can limb the tree all day long. My goal is to dig up that root system, right? Because it's making all of the other trees sick. And when we think about colonization, we need to think about all of the things that it disconnects, right? People, community, and land, because we quite literally colonize the land simply by existing in the way that supremacy culture demands, right? Your small act of bringing ancestral wisdom forward could quite literally be starting a food system in your front yard, right? They get on me all the time. I get citations all the time because they don't like that I park my car there. So I was like, okay, I found what am I going to do, right? It has to be impervious or some shit like that. It's because things could go into the groundwater and all that. And I'm like, cool, 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 cool. So I found what is the most, you know, ecological way to have an impervious surface to park cars. Welcome to my malicious compliance. So I called Chip Drop, right? A lot of these things exist. Google it if you need to. And basically, where they take down trees, they mulch them. They came and dumped an entire tree in my front yard and I spread it out. So now I have this really beautiful area where I can plant, right? And park my cars. So it's like, those are those sorts of things. Like, find whatever you used to know because you know it inside. Find what your people used to know and find new innovative ways to do something that looks different, that feels different. Every single plant that's in my front yard is edible, right? So it's like, if you need to get something, grab it. I'm going to do watermelons, like I said the other day, going down that way. And I'm thinking about strawberry fields. And I keep singing the song Strawberry Fields Forever in my head. And I'm thinking about like a little area just for strawberries. I want food that my children eat. And I don't want to keep paying $7 for strawberries, which they finish the day that it gets here, right? Like, what are some strawberries right now? Because I do Instacart, and I put them down. They're gone by this evening. $7. Like, when you start doing $7 3, 4 times a week, that's an absurd amount of money. When I could buy, plants for 25 and have them all season, and then not only that, other people can, right? My neighbor has kids. Other people want to eat. Maybe I make smoothies, all these other sorts of things. I'm going to spend $25 on a blueberry bush. Also, let me give you guys another tip. EBT. You can buy plants with EBT on Amazon, in Walmart, at I share this every single year at what are those things? Farmers markets. And if you go to the farmers market, Snap has a 2 for 1 something or another like that. Anyway, you could do that, and I'll put that information in this article as well, because that's super important while we're in this time of planting. There are so many ways to bring in ancestral wisdom and be more innovative with it. Laura says I'm going to plant 2 this year, hopefully. I hope you do, because I just can't keep up with it, right? And the more we are doing this, right? So, like, here's another way of bringing some older ways into now. Maybe I do lettuce, and my neighbor does the strawberries, right? And then, like, I could go and knock on my neighbor's door and be like, "Hey, friend." So here's what I'm thinking about: can we make something that's just so we can eat in on this block? Right? Hey, I'm gonna do all the collards. So, we're all gonna eat collards come November. I'm gonna ensure that we have enough. Can you handle X, Y, and Z? And you wind up with this community garden, you know, that's not necessarily off property, but it brings in your neighbors, and you guys are having a food share, which I think is amazing. Okay, the cat was trying to come in and then did not come in. So, anywho, 3. Here we go. Reconnecting with cultural practices strengthens communities, right? Anissa says, I just busted up my black pots to plant and spotted plant. Oh, hey, come over here, Anissa. Bring me some of those. And we're going to be doing that this week, Anissa. So come over. I'm going to do sunflowers. Erin loves sunflowers as just in general. And I would like to know how to make like sunflower seed oil. You seem to know that. Anissa's a chef and my friend. So I'm tapping into my own resources, folks. Carolyn says, I ate my first peaches off my tree last summer, and my aunt taught me how to bottle them. I didn't even know peaches would grow here. That is beautiful. And that's some intergenerational joy right there being shared, right? I want to do some more canning. I want to really understand the process more. Tiffany says, our neighbors who sadly have moved, we used to share produce between our gardens all the time. Yeah, it's something beautiful. Oh, Nisa gave me hearts to you. Yeah, I love that. My neighbor who was also moved, she didn't have a garden, but I had so much. It was absurd, right? Like it just, because it does, it keeps producing, it keeps producing. So I'd be like, please take it because it's going to rot on the vine. Like come and get some. That's something that just should happen. So I think that, yeah, I love that idea. I love the idea of sharing produce like that. So, three, reconnecting with cultural practices strengthens communities. Where are you going? You're not going to go outside. You want to? No. No, 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 no. I'm not letting you out. Mm-mm. Yeah, I know. I know. Okay. Okay, baby. You can sit here. You want to sit here and say hi to everybody? Um, I said revitalizing ancestral traditions with communities fosters resilience, identity, and collective strength. As an example, language revitalization programs help Indigenous communities reconnect with their cultural roots while fostering intergenerational healing. I realized growing up in New York City, thank you, she is pretty. And growing up in New York City, how many people lost their language, and it's so sad. Like even in my own family, my eldest, my father-in-law then spoke predominantly Spanish, and even though that's a colonized language, it's still the language. It's still the language. It is what it is, and she didn't, right? And that disconnect happened. So when we lose our native tongues, we lose a part of who we are. We lose a way of communicating with our people, right? That came before us, where that was their predominant language. And even if, okay, some people are bilingual, trilingual, and multilingual, there's nothing like your language, right? Like I could talk to you in Spanish, let's say, but English is my first language, whether it's a colonized language or not. It is mine, and it is what I could best express myself in. So that loss is another disconnect, right? Like colonization is intended for that level of disconnect, right? Like it's psychological warfare. It's not simply taking away people's rights or making someone feel less than or enacting laws that make people actually less than. It is quite literally psychological warfare. It is a complete and utter disconnect from oneself. Hello, Earth Sanctuary, from oneself, from one's community, from one's land, in all of the ways that you could possibly do that. It is insidious and violent. Any way that you could think, it is touched. So, in that sort of way, right, you could bring back that language, right? You could bring back that language as a practice. You could bring back, as we keep talking about gardening, because I'm just so excited about gardening. So it's just like it's my hyper focus right now. Uh, so I keep coming back to that, right? You could find things like what's going to bring you joy. What food I want you to. I'm working on. We're bringing in more. Like ancestral foods into our diet. I'm so fucking sick and tired of hearing like, oh, you need a Mediterranean diet. And I'm like, I'm not fucking Mediterranean. Like, why do you think that that would work for my body? Right? Like, we need to be thinking about that. So if you are going on your gardening thing, again, my hyper focus, I want to plant more root vegetables. I'm Irish, right? And also, I don't plan on being skinny. My people survived a forced famine. Do you know how happy my ancestors are that I am fat? Girl, what? Every time I eat, they are clapping because some of them did not make it. Stop playing with me, okay? Alexa, stop. Remind me again at 11:30 a.m. So, like, you got to think about those sorts of things. How could you bring that into your own practices? What does that look like? And when you're being intentional in that sort of way, you start questioning more. What did they eat? What was life like in that time? What were they going through, right? Sitting down and this connection between you, your food, the land becomes this full circle, right? Now you've planted this food and you're going to ingest this food, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things happen. Hold on, I'm trying to answer some comments. Our sanctuary agrees with me aesthetically. Grow the earth body. What brings you joy? Ancestral foods are absolutely a solution. Correct. I cannot believe we are so sick with this American diet because it is processed and it's not real, right? Like that, it's not real and it's not conditioned for each one of our groups of people, right? Like, love that. If you're a vegan, you should do that, rock that out. Not every single group of people were vegans or vegetarians. Some were meat eaters. There are ways to consume things in an ethical way, right? To be halal, even. There's just so many ways. And even when we think that there's only one right way, I want you guys to remember that that is 100% supremacy culture. That is another one of those pillars of supremacy. So there's not one way to do something, and your way is not the only way. Taylor says making haggis was a one time for me. Yeah, I'm good on haggis. I'm good, Taylor. I respect it though. I love that you tried. But I'm not gonna knock anything because I will eat some chitlins. So we all got our thing. I tried haggis. It's definitely not for me, but I do love a good black pudding, right? Which is blood pudding. And I've always loved it. Here's the crazy thing is growing up in New York City, there's, well, very much like growing up in the Bronx is like living in Puerto Rico. Tons of Dominicans, tons of Puerto Ricans over there. And they have a sausage called morcilla. And morcilla is a blood sausage. And I always loved it. It was like, this is so damn good. And a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans was like, I don't fuck with that. I don't do it. I don't like it. And then as I was looking into more ancestral foods and stuff, I realized like now I order mine, right? Black pudding, Irish. It's part of the Irish breakfast. When I moved to England, I don't know, 20 years ago now, I wound up having like a proper fry up, like a traditional English breakfast. And then I had like a traditional Irish breakfast, and black pudding was blood sausage. And I was like, it makes so much sense. Like your body knows. That's what I'm saying is that you know this already. Like it makes so much sense that I love that. And I could literally just like eat that every single day. I love it. I can have like black pudding with like eggs every day with no problems, no indigestion, no issues. Our sanctuary says this is so important. The source origin points of the gut microbiome. You sound like you know a lot more about this than I do, and so I welcome your input. It's just what I'm like. It makes sense to me, but I don't know enough to have that level of a conversation. Yes, native tribes especially had a plethora of hunting methods that maintained ecological balance and respect for the beings who give their lives for us. I am here. We are here. I love you, Earth Sanctuary. Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you. Oh, you brought me so much joy right now. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And yeah, right? Like that, like there was a way we have to learn how to coexist, right? What the idea of decolonization, yet another idea, because it's not just one, is the coexisting, right? Like it is okay. It is the American westernized industrialization of Earth, the colonization of Earth, yes, globally, of Earth that has made our level of consumption a problem, right? There is a way to coexist healthily in our community building. I realize that I'm over time and I was just enjoying myself so much this morning. So I apologize for that. I'm going to wrap it up. But yes, I think that we need to be focused more on reconnecting with our cultural practices for that community stuff. I think it's just beautiful if you've ever gone to anything that's rooted in something cultural, not just like to piss about and do some Americanized thing, but any sort of cultural festival, right? Here in Atlanta, I enjoy the Malcolm X Festival. Um, it's very militantly black, like right, because there's different sorts of black people and black Americans, but it's very much rooted in the culture of liberation and freedom. And there's just so many things that are happening there. It's very Afrocentric, right? And I think that that's beautiful. Same thing with like House in a Park. That's something that's a cultural reconnection in a different sort of way, because there are going to be things that just cannot be touched anymore. That a lot of ancestral stuff is gone. But I really want for you guys to seek it as much as you possibly can for that reconnection journey. So now listen, let me wrap up our day 70. Reclaiming ancestral wisdom for future building, because we're at time and I try to respect people's time boundaries. One, ancestral knowledge offers sustainable solutions. Two, honoring the past while embracing innovation for the now. Three, reconnecting with cultural practices strengthens communities. And tomorrow we will be discussing redesigning leadership structures for equity. We have talked about these things, we have touched on them. If they sound familiar, it's supposed to. It's supposed to. It's supposed to. Our brains love to learn in layers like that. It becomes a, ah, it's a joy. It's a spark. Ooh, I know this. And then it goes deeper and deeper and becomes embodied. So it is not that we are necessarily being repetitive. It is that we are learning it in different ways and aspects and implementing it, because this work needs to become embodied. Okay? So listen here. Tiffany says, I'm really appreciating all of the lessons of ancestral wisdom. This is hard for me. I need to dig deeper. It can be very uncomfortable, very specifically for white bodied people, because, well, you've been told how shitty you are. It's just, right? Like you've been told how awful you've been to the land, to Black people, to Indigenous people, to everybody globally. So the idea of touching something before you, right? It's very much why white people want to be new every generation. And I'm like, oh, friend, you're not. You're not new every generation, and that's okay. You're gonna have to do the work anyway, right? You're gonna have to dig in deep. It can be yes and, it could be both or. It can be all of these things, and multiple truths exist in the same place. Yes, white body people have been 100% leveraged for violence globally. That's can't dispute that. That absolutely is it. And unfortunately, there's no way to suss out who's safe and who is not, right? That is what it is. It's very similar to the, it's all men until it's no men. If you believe that patriarchy is a violent system to women and femmes, then you have to understand that whiteness is a violent system to non-white people. It could be as simple as that. But then when you're doing this work, when you're sitting here with me or anyone that's doing this sort of liberation and healing work, I want you to turn around and say that, one, you're touching ancestral stuff, right? The white body people that were something before they became white, right? Becoming white in and of itself is an active violence, right? It is a violence of colonization. If you are white today in 2025 and you do not have any information about your ancestral practices, where you're from or whatever, you have been fully and completely and utterly colonized, right? There is no fighting back. If you are saying get over it, it's been so long ago, you have that job. Colonization has done its job, right? When you see people still fighting to touch their humanity, to touch their ancestral wisdom, it's because they have not given in to colonization. Like, no, I will not. I will not. I will not. And I will continue to fight. And what I'm asking for you to do is get back to that fight, right? Remember those people that did not want to become white. That was not their desire. I'm sure some did, right? But again, when we're talking about it, then you have to sit down. It's your job as a white-bodied person to sit down and ask yourself, why did they want to become white? Why did they become white? What were the situations? What was going on? Because when you unpack that, when you unravel that, you come into alignment as co-creators of a new world, right? Of new earth, because you recognize, damn, this happened to my people already. And I don't want to continue for it to happen to me and my people. And I damn sure don't want to continue to be leveraged against other humans. So it is difficult. So take your time with it, breathe deep, ground yourself, because it's, again, a lot of grief and a ton of trauma to unpack and unravel all of the harm that was caused to you by other white people to become white, and the harm that you've caused to other people simply by existing. There's a weight to being an oppressor as well that needs to be sat with, and we will be covering what that looks like and what that feels like. So one, I want to congratulate you for moving through very hard things, because it's not easy. Tiff said, I'm the black sheep and not proud of my ancestry. But like you said, I need to dig deeper. Yeah, because there's always something to be proud of inside of someone's inside your ancestry, right? There's some awful things that have happened, inhumane things that have happened, but that's not your entire ancestral lineage. That can't be the sum total of who you are, right? That is not my desire here. Okay, I am not going to pull any punches. I'm not going to bullshit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to hold hands and be like, no, no, I'm not doing that either. But I do not want the worst of what has happened in the world to be the sum total of who you are. I definitely offer you to dig deeper, because it's an and or, yes, and both, multiple truths sort of thing, like I said. um and we could hold that. We can hold the truth of the violence that whiteness brings to all people, very specifically those who are not white bodied or coded as white, and still hold space for the violence that are brought to white bodies in order to become violent, in order to enact that violence on other people, right? We can't stop in one space. Carolyn says yes. If that's the sum total, then that's just more violence, right? And that's not. That's. I hope that that's never a message that I am like, no, that's it. You're trash, and that's it. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's not uh, my approach to it. That's not healing work for me. So, oh, you're so welcome. Tiffany said, thank you for your words. All right. I'm over time. It is 10:12. I am thankful for you guys and your grace as always. Thankful that you spend some time with me in the morning. And along with today's replay, I will put out yesterday's. I did not have anything left in me to write anything. I just laid about and hydrated. So thank you for that grace and understanding. So you will receive yesterday's and today's replay. And again, thank you. Tomorrow we shall be back doing this work of decolonization, whole self healing. I love you guys. I mean it. And thank you for being here. Bye.